People often think that life-changing moments arrive with noise, applause, or dramatic announcements. But sometimes, they happen quietly, on cold concrete steps, with half a sandwich, and a heart that chooses kindness over survival. This is the story of a poor single father who thought he was giving away his lunch, without realizing he was giving away his destiny. Early one gray morning, as the city rushed past in a blur of honking cars and hurried footsteps, Daniel Carter sat on the stone steps outside an old public library. His jacket was thin, his shoes worn, and his lunch rested in a crumpled brown paper bag on his lap. Inside was a simple sandwich, 2 slices of bread, a thin layer of peanut butter, and a single banana. It wasn't much, but it was all he had until late evening. Daniel was 36 years old and already felt decades older. Life hadn't been kind to him, but he had learned not to complain. 3 years earlier, his wife had passed away after a sudden illness, leaving him alone with their 6-year-old son, Noah. Since then, Daniel's world revolved around one goal: survive today so his son could have a better tomorrow. Every morning, Daniel dropped Noah off at school before heading to whatever work he could find. Some days it was construction. Other days it was loading trucks, cleaning warehouses, or fixing broken fences for neighbors who paid in cash. On days when there was no work, Daniel walked the city looking for opportunities, refusing to give up. That morning, he had an interview scheduled at a small repair shop across town. It wasn't guaranteed work, but it was hope. He sat on the library steps to rest for a moment before continuing, calculating in his head whether he should eat now or save the sandwich for later. Hunger had become familiar, almost like an old friend who never left. That's when he noticed the girl. She sat a few steps below him, hugging her knees tightly to her chest. She couldn't have been more than 10 years old. Her clothes were clean and expensive, but her posture told a different story. Her shoulders shook slightly as silent tears slid down her cheeks and dropped onto the concrete. Daniel hesitated. In his experience, getting involved often brought trouble. People were suspicious. Parents were protective, and he had no energy for misunderstandings. He looked away, telling himself someone else would help her. But something pulled at him. Maybe it was the way she tried so hard not to cry. Or the way her small hands trembled as she wiped her face. Or maybe it was because she reminded him of Noah on the days he asked questions Daniel couldn't answer. After a few minutes, Daniel stood, walked down the steps slowly, and sat a safe distance away. "Hey," he said gently, keeping his voice low. "Are you okay?" The girl didn't answer at first. Then she shook her head. "I'm lost," she whispered. "And my phone is dead." Daniel felt his stomach tighten, not from hunger, but concern. "What's your name?" "Emily," she said softly. "That's a nice name." "I'm Daniel." She nodded but didn't look up. Daniel glanced around. People passed by, busy with their own lives. No one seemed to notice the crying child. "Have you eaten today?" he asked. Emily shook her head again. "I wasn't hungry earlier." Daniel looked down at the paper bag in his hand. He hesitated only for a second. Then he opened it, broke the sandwich in half, and handed one piece to her. "Here," he said. "It's not fancy, but it helps." Emily looked at the sandwich as if it were something precious. "But, won't you be hungry?" Daniel smiled, though his stomach growled in protest. "I've been hungry before. I'll be okay." She accepted it with trembling hands and took a small bite. Her eyes widened slightly, as if the food brought her back to the present. Slowly, she ate more. They sat there quietly for a while. Daniel didn't rush her with questions. He knew pain didn't respond well to pressure. Eventually, Emily spoke. "My mom and I were arguing," she said. "She's always busy. Always on calls. Always late. I ran out of the building, and then I couldn't find my way back." Daniel listened carefully. "That sounds scary." She nodded. "She's important. Everyone listens to her. But, she never listens to me." Daniel felt a familiar ache. "Parents don't always get it right," he said. "But most of them love more than they know how to show." Emily wiped her face. "My dad died when I was little." Daniel's breath caught. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "My son lost his mom." Emily finally looked up at him. For the first time, their eyes met. In that moment, two strangers recognized the same kind of loss in each other. Unseen by either of them, a woman stood a few feet away, frozen in place. Sophia Reynolds had built a billion-dollar company from the ground up. She was known as ruthless in negotiations, unshakable in crises, and unstoppable in business. As CEO, she commanded boardrooms and markets alike. But at that moment, none of that mattered. She had followed her daughter out of the building in panic, only to lose sight of her in the crowd. Her heart had been racing, until she spotted Emily on the steps. And then she saw Daniel. She expected to see danger, manipulation, a stranger taking advantage of her child. Instead, she saw a man offering half his lunch, listening, sitting on cold stone without asking for anything in return. Sophia stayed back, watching silently as Emily laughed softly at something Daniel said. Watching her eat, watching her calm down. For the first time in years, Sophia saw her daughter at peace. When Emily finally stood, Daniel helped her brush the crumbs from her jacket. "I think we should find your mom," he said. "She's probably worried sick." Emily nodded. "I think she's right there." She pointed. Daniel turned, and froze. Sophia stepped forward, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "That sandwich," she said, voice unsteady. "That was your lunch, wasn't it?" Daniel swallowed. "Yes, ma'am. But it was worth it." Sophia looked at him for a long moment. Not as a CEO. Not as a powerful woman. But as a mother. "Thank you," she said simply. Daniel nodded. "I didn't do much." "You did more than you know," she replied. Sophia knelt and hugged Emily tightly, whispering apologies over and over again. Then she stood and faced Daniel. "What do you do for work?" "I take whatever I can get," he answered honestly. Sophia reached into her bag, pulled out a card, and handed it to him. "Come to this address tomorrow morning." Daniel hesitated. "I'm not looking for charity." She met his eyes. "Neither am I. I'm looking for people with character." The next day changed Daniel's life. What began as a job offer turned into a career. What began as a single act of kindness turned into opportunity after opportunity. Sophia didn't just give him work, she gave him stability, dignity, and a future. But more importantly, she changed too. She started leaving work earlier. Attending school events. Listening. Years later, when Daniel stood in a new home watching his son play in the yard, he remembered that morning on the steps. The hunger. The choice. The sandwich. And he understood something deeply. Kindness is never wasted.